Yes, let's do. And thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Mira, for the introduction. And this is what we're doing tonight, plus a little bonus. If I work quickly, I'm going to show you how to core and stuff some Sephardic vegetables. But this is what we're doing. And, who doesn't love stuffed grape leaves? Except most of us very often will reach for a can, right? You don't have to. These are not that hard to do, and they're a wonderful thing to do with friends. And I want to also, by the way, just thank everyone at Nasher, as always, and including Shannon, because I just love writing and teaching for Nasher. All right, so we're in the middle of Sukkot, which is the most lovely holiday. And there's a reason why we're doing stuffed grape leaves tonight. It's a tradition at Sukkot to have stuffed foods, symbolic of the abundance of of the harvest, gratitude, and also, interestingly, things that are rolled are eaten on Simchat Torah because they are like rolled up Torahs. So that's also a really fun little food symbolism. Sephardic and Ashkenazic Jews both do stuffed cabbage, just different flavors. But it's only really Sephardic and Jews from the Mediterranean and the Middle East who do stuffed grape leaves, because you have to cook with what's around you. And, up in the Pale of Settlement in Russia, there's not grape leaves abounding in the same way, at certain times of year. All right. Now, the recipe that we're using tonight is in the Nasher already. It's been posted. If you haven't seen it, Mira, maybe you could post the link in the chat. That would be so lovely for people so they can follow along if they'd like. And also tonight, what we'll do is I'm going to cook, I'm going to talk, and every so often I'll take a break and ask Mira to read to me questions and comments that are in the chat. So just put it all in there, and hopefully we'll keep up to some extent instead of having like a whole bunch at the end. All right, so let's talk just really quickly about the name of if you haven't seen the article, this is a big deal in some ways because everyone calls these stuffed grape leaves doma. And that's actually incorrect because doma comes from the Turkish word domak, which means to be filled or stuffed, yes, but it usually refers to stuffed vegetables, not grape leaves. Rolls of leaves, chard, grape leaves, even cabbage, are referred to as yaprak sarma. Yaprak means leaf, and sarma means wrapped thing. And so you have a yaprak doma is a stuffed grape leaf, or you have a yaprak sarma, but you would not have this being called traditionally a doma. You would have it being called yaprak, which is what my grandmother was from, a town that's now in Macedonia. It was called Monastir. It's now called Bitola. And it's not far from where Mira's family came from, which is interesting. And that's under the Greek influence. And so it's very lemony. The Balkans, a lot of things are very lemony. Now, the Turks make their stuffed grape leaves more with warm spices like cinnamon and allspice and cardamom. And they also will put pine nuts and currants very often in them. So there's a difference. You're getting what I grew up with, the lemony, as you'll see, grape leaf. And we called them yaprakas growing up, which is just a form of saying yaprak. All right. So what I want to do is start by talking about the leaves themselves. Now, the leaves are really interesting. They come in jars. This is an unopened one. If you haven't done this, I'm going to go through these steps. And they're in these great, big, fat rolls. So, first thing I do is turn this over, drain the liquid. This is actually a 2-pound jar and would make quite a few, probably about 80, maybe even more. But let me just show you in terms of the unwrapping, and I'm just going to go ahead and I would unwrap them and put them in this colander. But this one unwrapped easily. But what ends up happening Okay, and maybe let me switch here where you can see, if you look on the my second screen, you'll see the close-up of my hands working. So do you see how, oh, you think this is one leaf, but then you feel it. Wait, it's too thick. It's not one leaf. So you have to very gently go in and separate the two leaves and unfold this, the whole leaf, very gently. Now, what you're going to find is that I like to divide my leaves up. First, I would take and unroll all of these, and I would put them in. Actually, no, I'm telling you the wrong order. I apologize. The first thing I would do would be to put all the unrolled leaves into a colander. Okay, so they'd be in the colander. I'd put the colander in a bowl of cold water, let them soak a few minutes, take them out, rinse them, and then I would start separating the leaves. Okay, and I would drain the leaves. This is kind of funny. When I drain the leaves, I've seen this in other people's homes too. You kind of hang it off of everything because you want them to be a bit on the dry side. You don't want to roll sopping wet leaves. So let's say this was already washed. I would just have this whole draining thing going on bowls and on the colander. So what they end up with, once they're washed and everything, you end up with grape leaves, and there are different sizes. So this is a big grape leaf. All right. I'm going to give you here. You can look on the other shot, and you can see on the close-up. This is a big one. Okay. Let me hold it up next to a small, medium one. Okay. You can kind of see the sizes going down, and then we can get into. Let me just small kitchen blues here. The small one. All right. So you can see if you're looking at the three, okay, you can see how the sizes progress. Okay. What I do is I roll all of my big ones first. Oops, I'm mixing them up. So let's start with them, and then we'll go from there. All right. Now, the way that you roll these is there's a shiny side, which is the outside, okay? And then there's the inside. The inside is the veined side. It's where you can feel the veins popping up. When you have a little stem like this, it will get in the way and break your leaf as you roll it. So what you want to do is take a knife, or sometimes I just use a little scissors, as close to the stem as I can get, and I trim it off. Okay? Now, so we have that duller side with all the veins spread out. Again, you got to just gently handle how you spread the leaf. All right. So let's switch this. About a tablespoon fits on these larger leaves. And what I like to do, I put it right above the divide. As you can see, the leaf is divided. And I like to scooch it all together in a nice little log. Okay? So we have kind of a log of rice. And you know what? I didn't talk about the rice very much. I'm going to back up. As soon as I roll this one, I'll talk about the rice. Okay. I was so excited to roll. And what I just did is you take the two parts that are separated, you roll them over. Then you pull back. You kind of almost are tucking them under. You want to roll tightly. This rice is only part cooked, and things will expand as they cook, but you want to roll tightly. Otherwise, they'll come undone as you cook. Now, there's the ends of where that roll of rice is. You have one end here, you fold it up. You take the other end, you go to where it is the natural fold up. Okay. You go a little bit farther, so they really are inside of the leaf. See where this edge is hanging out? Quick and easy thing to make this a clean roll is to fold that in a little bit if anything is sticking out like that. Fold this one in a little bit. Again, your tight roll. Okay. And then, honestly, it's just a tight roll up. And there's a leaf. Now see this, the seam side? You always want to put it seam side down. And that's how they're going to go in the pot. Let me back up and talk about the rice, because we totally just jumped way ahead, and I apologize for that. So this rice is basmati rice, and I want to show you all separated the grains are. We're not making sushi rolls. We don't want the rice to be lumpy and stick together. So here's how you do that. First, I like to use basmati because it is one of the lowest starch rices. It's the starch on the outside of the rice kernels that make them stick together. So basmati or long grain white rice will work. Either way, you want to rinse them very well in cold water. You can even stick them in a strainer and stick the strainer in a bowl of cold water for half an hour if you want. Pull it out, rinse it quickly, and you'll have it. Now, what you want to do is cook it. The way that I suggest in the article, in the recipe on Nasha to cook this, is something I learned, believe it or not, true confessions here, from Jamie Oliver, when he used to run around calling himself the Naked Chef. And I saw him once do this brilliant thing where he just threw a cup of rice in like 5 cups of water or 6 cups, whatever it was, as it was boiling. The water was boiling. And he tested the rice after however long he thought it was going to be done. Then he drains it, runs cold water so it stops cooking, or it goes ahead and uses it right away if he's putting it in something else. And you have perfectly cooked rice, chick-chock, just like that. You don't have to have any perfect measurements. You just have a lot of water. You throw some salt in the water, and you're done. So that's what I did. And then I added, all this. This is a very herby, as you can see. It's very green. It's a very herby stuffing. You don't have to make it this herby. As you know, I'm always talking about cook for yourself. Make it your own recipe. So, for instance, if this is too herby for you, cut back. Use maybe half as much parsley. Cut back on whatever if this is too much. You don't like parsley? Don't use it. You don't like mint? Don't use it. Dill? Don't use it. Make this your own. That's the most important thing you can do. And if you want to use meat, once the rice is cooked, you can go ahead and mix in ground meat. It will cook because these cook for an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half, believe it or not. So the meat will cook. So you do not saute the meat, brown it, cook it first. You just throw it in raw. Okay. And I will say, when you use meat, it's easier to make that log. It stays together easier. All right, let me go back to show you. Okay, you can see the vein side right here. This is a little bit of a stump. I'm going to just cut this little teeny, because any of these little things are going to get in the way and possibly break your grape leaf as you roll it. Okay, spread out the leaf. All right. We got it. By the way, are there any questions on what we've done so far, Mira?
Yes, there's one question that's about how to make the stuffing.
So the stuffing is basically chopped up herbs and par-cooked rice. The rice should be cooked so it's par-cooked, which means that it's still, if you bite into this, I can see this little teeny bit of white in the middle of this, and there's still it's like al dente pasta. And it's the same idea. It's cooked. You could eat it this way, but it's not white soft. Okay. And for basmati rice, that's 8 to 9 minutes max. Okay, anything else?
Yeah.
Has all these details.
Yes, there's a question about, can you repeat the order of taking out the leaves from the jar, separate after rinsing in the colander, ? And a related question about how to prepare the grape leaves.
Well, the way you prepare the grape leaves, you take them out of the jar, you unroll them, you put them into a colander, set the colander in cold water. Okay, you haven't separated the leaves yet, you've just unrolled them. And then it's like this. So you're just doing a whole bunch of leaves, unrolled, not separated or anything. You're soaking that brine off of them. You don't want that briny taste. And then you basically take them out of the colander, let them drain all over, as I was saying, edges of bowls and edges of pots. It's really funny. If people are making a lot of grape leaves, there will be all kinds of improvised ways to dry the leaves. And that's only for maybe 20 minutes. It's just enough to take the drippy water off. You don't want that. And then you separate them, as I had showed. Here's the large. This is a large grape leaf. Okay. Then we have, and that's what I'm rolling first. I always start with the large, the medium, and then these are smaller, as you can see. Okay. So that's really it right now. That's how you prepare the grape leaves to this point. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, a few questions about using fresh grape leaves as well as fig leaves. Like people ask for the same thing.
Sorry?
One person asked about whether you can use fig leaves the same way, but one of the more pressing questions is whether or not you can use fresh grape leaves that have not been pickled.
Yes, I love it. I have foraged for grape leaves and used them. They're wonderful to use fresh. In the recipe, I actually give directions for how to use fresh grape leaves also. Basically, you just have to blanch them. You have to wash them really well, and then you have to blanch them in boiling water. I think it's like, and I can tell you, I haven't done it in a while. You rinse them one by one. Yeah, boil in a pot of water, remove from the heat. But basically, you're just blanching it for 5 minutes, and then you drain. 5 minutes in boiling water, pull them out, drain them dry, and you have beautiful fresh grape leaves to use. Exactly. Once you get to that point, you're doing the same thing. You're sorting by size, and you're rolling. And you're also, before they even go in, you can cut the stems shorter, because again, just be careful of any long stems. Okay? What else?
Questions about types of grain to use. Can you use brown basmati rice, bulgur, couscous?
Couscous doesn't work so well. I don't like couscous. Brown basmati rice, yes. Bulgur, yes. I've seen farro used. The little grains of couscous, I don't think work well in grape leaves. But you know what I always say? You should try it. If you think you might like it, try it. It's not going to hurt you, and you might like it. But yes, to the others. And it just means that the time to par cook the grain will vary based on what grain you're using. So if you're using brown basmati rice, that takes longer to cook, you'll have to par cook it longer, because you do need it to get par cooked. Okay? Anything else?
Questions about grape leaf storage and purchasing. What brands you're using, which ones you recommend, and how to store the grape leaves if you have some left over. How long can they be stored? Leave in brine, freeze?
Okay, these live until you open it in a cupboard. Once you open it and drain the brine, you can store the leftovers in the refrigerator. What I do is I create a salt brine. I just put some salt in a little bit of warm water, dissolve it, add cool water to it, and then put it in the refrigerator. When you salt brine things, it's like pickling, which I don't know, by the way, if any of you can see this back. This is all pickling I've been doing that time of year, and they're all salt brine. Those, once they're done and they're in the refrigerator, just like with this, you can keep it for quite a while in the fridge. At least I've kept grape leaves that I have opened the jar for actually about a month in the refrigerator. I haven't done it for longer, but I'm not sure that there's a reason you can't. The salt brine is a preservative, and the salt eats the bad bacteria. Essentially, that's what happens in pickling. The lactobacillus eats the bad bacteria, so you end up with really good bacteria. So yes, you can. You can keep them. Now, the brands I use. This is a very common one. I don't like it very much. I find that this is a better jar than the ones I made several weeks ago, which had so many broken leaves and so many. Plus, the other thing is, this has ingredients, preservatives in it, and it has sulfites, which I don't like. So this is the brand the reason I did buy it was because this is what a lot of people will find. And if you have to use it, you're soaking them, you're rinsing them, it's going to be okay. But if you can find something like this brand, which is Essan. And where is this one from? I'm not even sure. I get it at my Persian grocer. It doesn't. Oh, it's interesting. It doesn't say. But I'll tell you what's in this one and one of the reasons I like it. I'm all for as pure of ingredients as you can get. This is grape leaves, vinegar, salt, and water. Done. So, and again, if you have leftover, you can still create a salt brine and put them in the fridge. They'll still keep. You don't need all those preservatives. So, and I just say, find whatever grape leaves you can, because they're not always readily available, depending on where people live. Find what you can. And, just buy the most pure you can find. And again, I'm rolling some more. Oops, I let that escape. I'm rolling some more, by the way, if any people want to keep watching. It's just your basic, it's like a burrito, but I always like to fold in the edges as I showed you more. So you end up with this nice point. Okay. All right, we're going to move on, and I'll still take some more questions, of course, as we go. But let me show you now the steps of cooking them. So first of all, you have all these broken or very small leaves, okay? You line the pan. You pour in about a tablespoon or so of oil just to keep it from sticking. And then you use all these broken and little teeny grape leaves because that will help keep them from burning, from sticking to the pan and from burning. What I do with this lemony version is I then line. By the way, the straight-sided pot or pan really is the best. I like it a lot. But if what you have is something more like a typical saucepan, you can absolutely use the sides aren't as straight. The only thing you want to be careful of is that you're not like stacking up the sides. You want it to be one layer. And that's what we can do easily with just some care in both kinds of pans. So this is the lemon that you'll see in the instructions. Two lemons get cut up, and 2 lemons get zested. The zest is in the stuffing, and then the zest gets mixed into the stuffing. All right. So that's all I'm doing on the bottom. That also will help keep things from sticking. Now, I don't have enough to show you really how tightly I pack it, but I'm going to try. Okay, I think I'll do it here. Maybe you can see it better. Okay. So I start at one end. You can do it in circles. You can do it in rows. It doesn't matter. Everybody kind of has their own way of stuffing. I like to do, similar lengths. This is an imperfect art. You're going to have rolls that are different sizes, and that's okay. They'll taste the same. It's not a machine made, and that's good. But what I do is when I have, you can see here, there we go. I have a couple that are longer. I'll put them in their own row. So I just start to fit things in. Remember, it's that seam side down, the point that you rolled last is down, and they're being packed in pretty closely. Okay? So maybe this can go here. And if you want, you just keep doing this until you get to the middle. All right, and this is all I have done so far. So when I have a small kitchen that I can reach across and dump things in the sink. Okay, that's an advantage, right? When I get it all full, I'm going to show you what we do. We take whatever slices are left over and scatter them on the top. All right. Now, what is the sauce? The sauce here is a little bit of olive oil. I think it's 2 tablespoons if I remember. Definitely you want to look at the recipe, of course. Yeah, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. It's the juice from the lemons that I had juiced. 2 of the lemons I zested and then I juiced them. So this is the juice. Zest is in the filling. And it's also here about a cup of warm water. And doesn't have to be warm, but sometimes it helps it blend a little bit. I just like to stir it together again. And you pour it all over, pretending, of course, this is full of grape leaves. Full, full, full. And the whole thing that you want is you want it to come about a quarter of the way up the grape leaves. This is not quite. So I would, before I cook this, add a little more water. You don't want to drown them, okay? But about a quarter of the way up. And you check partway through cooking them to make sure that there's still enough water. Then here's the fun trick. I forgot I'm using this. Okay. You put a plate overturned on top. Again, this would be sitting evenly. Okay. You turn it over, inverted, to set it on top. Then you bring it to you want to get them boiling. And as soon as they do, you turn it down to a slow simmer. You just want these to simmer and simmer and simmer and until they're very soft. And it will be about an hour or an hour and a half, someplace in there. And you can kind of press them and check. When you do take this off, you want to be very careful because it's hot. So whenever you lift the plate, be sure that's one way to do it. You can just take a fork or a spoon, lift it into your hand that has protection. And that's it. That's what's going to happen to make your stuffed grape leaves. They will keep in the fridge I don't like keeping them more than a week in the fridge. You can. It's just my preference. I think they start to kind of lose their body. I did try, interestingly, freezing them. I had never done that, but I wanted to see before I taught this class because I figured the question's going to come up. It always does. So I want to show you. So, rice, when you freeze it, kind of gets a little funky. I don't know if you can see it here. It doesn't have the same texture, and you can taste it. It's kind of like a little dry, a little grainy. But you know what I was thinking? Near the end of cooking this, I'm going to put these frozen ones in there for the last, maybe 15 minutes. I'm going to add them, and they're going to get soft and lovely again, I believe. My experiment. I do think it'll work. Okay. Anyway, so that's what I will do to try to revive them because, sometimes you want to cook ahead. And I'm not going because I really don't want to waste all these ingredients. I'm going to keep making grape leaves tonight and cooking them. But now it comes to a boil, the plate's on it. Turn it turn it down. And the other thing you need is a very good lid. You want it to be a good, tight-fitting lid that you don't have any moisture coming out. Remember, you're not using a lot of liquid. This is kind of like a steaming where it keeps feeding on itself, almost like a tagine in a sense, where the steam will rise and drop, the liquid will drop down. And that liquid's going to be lemony, so that everything's getting this lemony dousing going along. Okay, I want to show you. Any of you who have taken a class with me before know my cat. There she is. Okay. My cat, Honey, loves Zooms and never fails to make an appearance. Okay. So what we're going to do is clean this up a little. All right. I just want to let me stop and ask, are there questions?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I'm posting the recipe again in here just so people have it to follow along. Questions about why both a lid and a plate.
That's a good question. The plate weighs down your rolls so that it helps to prevent them from opening up during cooking. The lid is how you're creating this wonderful steam environment. If you just have the plate, you're going to have water, steam escaping. You're going to boil out all your liquid.
Questions about the brand of the pot that you use.
Oh, this is, I love this pan. I don't even know what it is. Oh, this is a Cuisinart. I love this pan. I make stuffed peppers stovetop or in the oven with it. And honestly, I think I got it on sale someplace because I don't like to invest in really expensive pots and pans because I find that a lot of times they don't last, even just because I use them so much. But this has been, I don't even know now, maybe 6-8 years, and it's like new. And it doesn't stick. So this is the Cuisinart, and it's it doesn't have any coating, as you can see. So
speaking of the pan, can you kind of hold it up into the camera?
Yes.
Folks are like, we got to see a close-up of that pan. Beautiful.
Okay. Now, by the way, if you fill this whole bottom layer and you have more, just put them on top of the ones you have at a different angle. You just don't want to do them at the exact same direction. So, for instance, let's see, what's the best way to show you here? For instance, if I wanted to do a second layer, here, let's say I had too many and I want to do a second layer. I would do them at a different angle like that on the second layer. That's all. So you can go up if you have too many to fit in the bottom. Again, though, it's really a tight pack. Just remember that. You're packing them in tightly. Okay, next.
What's the diameter of the pan? Estimate?
It is.
Ruler.
It's a 12-inch pan. Very handy ruler, very handy pan. Yeah, it's a great size. I can't recommend it highly enough. And this is I'm not getting paid to do that.
Should all the liquid be absorbed by the end of cooking?
There will be some liquid left. There should be. It shouldn't be all absorbed because if it's all absorbed, that means that something on bottom is gonna burn. So you want to make sure that there's always some liquid in the pan. Just add water. Check it after 45 minutes. Check it for water. Check it at about an hour or an hour 10, depending on what it looked like at 45 and felt like. And see if you need to add just some more water. It'll be fine. By the way, I just separated, I had doubled the rice and the herbs and the lemon in this so that I could show you the other recipe and still have enough to finish. And we've never posted the Sephardic stuffed vegetable recipe. Mira, I should send it to you all because this is a lovely recipe also. So I just wanted to separate out the stuffing because when I'm going to make Sephardic stuffed vegetables, let me just clear a little here. Okay. All right. I want you all to see really well what's going to happen next. What I do is I tend to add some other things to the filling. In this case, I chopped up and sauteed some cremini mushrooms and some onion. So I put that. I also very often will add a little cinnamon. This is a little different flavor profile. So I like to add a little cinnamon, a little allspice. It's more that flavor profile I was telling you about. The yaprak sarma, the rolled grape leaves in Turkey. And this is more like what we're making now is the real dolma, the stuffed vegetables. Okay, this is about 8 ounces or so of mushrooms. I very often will add some lentils to this too, some cooked lentils, just because, and I will cook them, part cook them, but I will add those. Now comes the fun. All right. What's our time? Good, there's enough time. All right, there's a couple different ways. You've probably seen Sephardic stuffed vegetables that this gets hollowed out. This center. So how do you do that? Okay, a couple ways. If all you have is a vegetable peeler, that'll work. You go in, and I'm going around very carefully, very evenly as much as possible, and you just keep doing it. And what you want is about 1/8 of an inch left. You don't want it to be thick, okay? And interestingly, what you do is, and I'm going to show you other ways to do that, but you chop up, nothing gets wasted, nothing. So you take these inside of the zucchini, chop them up, and you throw them in this pan, which by the way has been greased, and that's what the vegetables will sit on. And if you're doing stuffed tomatoes, you would put the inside of the tomatoes. So let me show you another tool. That's the potato peeling tool. I'm going to show you, many of you might have a melon baller. You can do it with a melon baller, going around, you can see. And the trick to this is, as you go down, you want to go pretty far down without breaking through. This is the melon baller. Okay. Let me show you up here. Okay. You're just going around. So that works. Then, if you have the old-fashioned grapefruit spoon, or grapefruit divider, that works, although it's my least favorite. The ultimate is, this is like the corer that you can buy for $10 on Amazon. And this is nice because it goes down into the vegetable. And it has the long handle and the long blade, which goes down in. And I want to show you one that's done nicely. And to be honest, I sometimes will use my corer and I will finish it off with the melon baller because that's a very smooth finish. And you have two sizes on the melon baller. Okay, you have the larger and the smaller. So as I get down to the bottom, I'll switch to the smaller and create a very smooth, even See if you can you see inside there? There you go. All right. Now, that's pretty, yeah. Now, what I want to do, I don't think I'm quite down enough. And the reason I can tell you that is because I'm touching the bottom. It's very firm. So I'm just going to do a little bit more. You don't want that big clunk, but I'm going to go very slowly and carefully. Yep, it's got a little bit of give. All right, so I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit and make it as even as I can all the way around. Okay. Whoops. I think this is not, there we go. All right. So here you go. That is, you can see the inside of the zucchini. And then I just take and I'm not showing you, I apologize. I stuff down in, but do not have it really full coming out the top. You want to leave a little space. Remember, the rice is going to expand a little bit. And you don't want to pack it. I just barely gently tap it. And see the extra space at the top, if you can see that. And then this will go in with everything else. When I have everything done, I'll put in my chopped up zucchini and whatever else there is. I want to show you the onion. The onion is so interesting. There's all different ways Sephardim do onions. Some stuff them and close them. What I like to do is make almost like a boat out of them. So you cut an onion from top to tail, from top to bottom. You don't cut it around the circumference, but you cut it the long way. And then I find that my trusty vegetable peeler works really well. What you've done, and this one is a little crooked. Let me straighten it out. You want to kind of barely cut off, like you can see that the stem end still has, or the root end rather, still is held together a bit. You don't want, if you cut it too much, then you won't have this effect where it's a little closed up. So what we're doing is getting to these little boats. Okay? Whew, they're sliding around. All right. How do you get that? I start in the middle. The first thing I do is I just flip out the first easily, and they come out so easily. Let me show you on this. Okay. I just take, and I very gently go in between. I can see where it is, and just lift out the sections. That's it. It's so easy. There are many other ways to do it. Sometimes some people, as I said, like to close them up. They'll par cook the onions and then close them and close the filling inside. I actually really like these because the onions, I just love the way they cook, and they're easy. Honestly, they're easy, which is important too. If I'm going to make them, sometimes you have to have something that is not so demanding. So then I just, obviously, would take and fill the onion. Again, not totally full. That's too full. There we go. Let me show you. Okay. They smell so good. By the way, I didn't tell you this before, but these herbs, oh my goodness. They smell so good in my kitchen. Okay, there you go. That's a done one. I want to show you the pepper. I love using peppers that are long. Okay. And all I do, I've got work ahead of me tonight. All right. And by the way, what happens to the insides that are little? Like, I will probably stuff something like this. Okay. That's going to get stuffed. I don't know if I fill in space. I might stuff this little one. I might not. But what I do, because I prepare the onions first, if I'm making stuffed vegetables, I chop up the inside onions to be sauteed with the mushrooms. which is what I did tonight on the half that was done. Okay. Then I want to show you the pepper. So it's really easy because all I'm going to do is cut around very close to the green part of the stem. This is part of the beauty of the Sephardic stuffed vegetables. You know, it's like sometimes women would buy to see, you know, who could create the thinnest stuffed zucchini and they still held together, you know, but all right, then you can use any of your tools to go in, and all I'm doing is using this peeler because of the jagged edge to help me. And a lot of these long peppers do not have a lot of seeds, so they're really nice to work with. See if everything's out. Oh, you know what? There's like this kind of weird, funky part right here. I might just shave that off because it's like brown. Okay. And then you see the rib here that's sticking up? I would take that off, either with my fingers or better yet, with this trusty. I'm telling you, this potato peeler has so many uses. The core also will work for this. All right, still there. Okay. All right. You've got to come out. All right, I have a step. Ah, there it is. There we go. Okay. So same thing. What am I going to do? I'm just going to stuff this. I like to stuff the vegetables over the bowl so I can be messy and just kind of drop in the stuffing and not have to worry. And I shake it down. I'm not pressing it in. I'm shaking it down. Okay. So I would do like 2 zucchini, which is 4 pieces, maybe 2 with this amount of stuffing, 2 tomatoes if you want, or many onions, several peppers. You know, this is just a really lovely. And one thing I didn't do that I probably should have, because you always want to taste, I didn't taste the stuffing before I started using it. What I like is when you just get like a hint of the cinnamon and a hint of the allspice. I don't want it smacking me in the face. And this accomplishes that, so I'm very happy. This has a little too much space. All right, here we go. Let me show you this on the inside. You can see. Okay, and that's going to go in. I mean, you can cook these standing up, laying down. I tend to lay them together. They're beautiful in the pan and beautiful to serve. Now, what sauce? The traditional sauce, believe it or not, many of the cookbooks with very traditional recipes for stuffed vegetables just have like water and tomato or tomato sauce. That's it. I love pomegranate. I love the tang that pomegranate syrup gives things. And so what I've done is I have a sauce that's one of the 6-ounce cans of tomato paste. And then it's a cup of warm water. The warm water is important. Pretty warm because it'll help dissolve the tomato paste. And 1/3 of a cup of pomegranate molasses or pomegranate. Actually, it's the molasses. If you see pomegranate syrup, it most likely has sugar in it. You do not want the sugar. Many pomegranate molasses brands also have sugar. These, Sadat, and this one is Alwadi, are 2 that do not. They are literally pomegranate juice, 100%. You can, if you want, boil down pomegranate juice for quite a while and create your own pomegranate molasses. That's kind of a fun thing to try. I have done it. It does take a long time. Anyway, so for this, what I would do is just when this is full, I'm not going to do it now, but I'll show you. I would just kind of evenly pour this syrup or the sauce all over with maybe a little extra, not a ton on top. I would put some in the bottom and I would just put some on top of all the vegetables. But if they're open like this, I put less of the sauce. I wouldn't cover it in it. I would maybe, just kind of drizzle some. Something like this, the zucchini, the pepper, you really can just pour it over them because that's the outside. And that's it. You bake them. And they're delicious. And I know we're going to run out of time. So, Mira, questions?
Many. There's actually a question that's way back, but it's about what can you serve with the yaprak to dip? Is there a specific sauce that you put on the side to dip the stuffed grape leaves in?
Yeah, stuffed grape leaves aren't a dipping thing, generally. There's no reason you can't. So it's very interesting. From the island of Rhodes, the Sephardim actually cook their stuffed grape leaves on top of white beans and tomato sauce, a very kind of thin tomato sauce. And they just make a big pot of them. Instead of lemon and all that, they do the beans and but not dipping. Although if you wanted to serve it with like a little yogurt dill or tzatziki, people would eat it. The thing is, like, yaprakas can be served as appetizers, meze, and they can even be a main course with a salad and some vegetables. But I say do what you like. Traditionally, no, they weren't dipped. You want to make a yogurt sauce to go with it or some tzatziki? Sure, why not?
So, question from Laura. She said for the grape leaves to cook till it feels and looks right. What are we looking and feeling for?
Soft. You want them to be really nice and soft. You will know they get a little darker. Let me see if I can show you. Here's the contrast. Can you tell that they're a little darker? Let me go over here. Okay, can you see that they're a little darker, the grape leaf? They'll get a little darker, the whole pan, but they'll also get much, much softer. That's why you have to put the plate overturned. That's why the seam side down, because they unwrap really easily as they soften. That's what it is. It's kind of but like I said, it's an hour to an hour and a half. Most of the time, mine are an hour 15. That seems to be my sweet spot, if that helps you at all.
Will a deep soup pot work in terms of cooking the grape leaves?
It will, but still follow the rules. Only have the liquid come up about a quarter of the way. Put a plate down in there. It's harder to work with. You could.
Please repeat the tomato paste sauce, pomegranate syrup, and water amounts. It is not in the recipe.
No, we don't have this recipe up there. It's kind of just a bonus when we were talking about stuffed veggies. Shannon thought it would be fun for me to show people how to pour and create these Sephardic stuffed vegetables. I should definitely post that recipe, but it's a cup of warm water, 6 ounces, a small 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and 1/3 of a cup of pomegranate molasses. That's it. In fact, I haven't tasted this in a while. Let me just see. When this cooks with the veggies and the pomegranate molasses gives everything this wonderful tang. So good. What else?
What temperature do you bake the veggies? Covered or uncovered?
I knew this was going to happen if we talked about this. The veggies cook at 354. And by the way, you can do a couple of pans. This is a lot of sauce. You could probably do 2 pans of that, depending on how much you wanted to make. They bake for 40 to 45 minutes covered. So put some aluminum foil. And then your vegetables should be soft. So once their vegetables are soft, you want to take out, it could be another 5 or 10 minutes if you have like thick zucchini, but you want to take off your cover, your foil, and let it cook for maybe 15 minutes more. So the vegetables start to brown and the sauce gets a little thicker. So it's a total of an hour broken up, essentially. 45 minutes covered, around 15 uncovered.
A question kind of about, well, there was a question about trying to put the onions closer up into the camera so people can see them a bit better.
Can you see them on the computer?
Yes, now yes.
Yeah.
And doesn't have lemon zest in recipe. So a question about where the lemon zest goes in the
Which
grape
recipe?
The grape leaves, the yaprak.
Good. If it doesn't, it's a mistake. Hang on. All right, let me just double check what I sent you. So it says 4 large lemons are in the ingredients. And then it's not in here. Let's see. It doesn't say, you know what? You caught a mistake. It doesn't say, oh yeah, it does. It's the first direction. Zest and juice 2 of the lemons and set aside separately. Thinly slice the remaining 2 lemons and set aside. Okay, so you have zest in a dish, juice in a dish, and you have the sliced lemons in a dish. Okay, it's the very first direction in the recipe. And then in the recipe, it tells you that when you put the rice in the mixing bowl, once it's cool, you add the lemon zest, parsley, mint, dill, blah, blah, blah. The juice is what I talked about, goes in the sauce with the olive oil and the water. And then the slices, of course, go on bottom and top.
Question, beef or lamb preferred? If you're going to make it with meat, what's your preference? What do you suggest?
Okay, you're asking someone who's been a vegetarian. I haven't had meat in 51 years. But I can tell you that I grew up with beef. That was the most of the people I know who make it with meat, make it with beef. If you like lamb.
One more is, yes, actually, the question is, please roll one more. Roll a yaprak encore.
All right, we're going to do it. I don't mind at all because I have to roll all these anyway. All right. Dull vein side. You can see the veins and feel them. Dull vein side up. Okay. Okay. This is the stuffing, about a tablespoon. You know, it depends on the size of the leaf. If you get down and you're rolling the little leaves and you feel like doing that, so put less stuffing in. You don't want it to spill out. Okay. Let me move this so you can see. There you go. I've got my little log. Okay. Then you've got the split. This one does not have a stem, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll. Okay. 1, 2. They overlap. What I do is overlap them. I pull them back. You can see that I'm pulling it back before I do the next roll. Okay. Once I do that roll, you can see like there's a little open. It's going to be covered. I go to the end, fold it over. Go to the end, fold it over. And you can see these fingers pulling in, because I'm so used to doing this. You might have to stop and do this, or you can just use your, like, what is that? The finger next to the pinky finger, the ring finger, and just roll. tightly. And the beauty of this is nobody knows that there was some rice showing on one of these. Okay. All right, I'll do one more. Do we have time? And if you have another question or two or three, let's see what we can get through.
One more is about substitutions for Passover if you're not Sephardi, which I'm guessing means if you can't eat rice for Pesach, what do you use?
I mean, you could use quinoa if you eat quinoa. Otherwise, don't make them. I mean, to be honest, it's not, even though we eat rice at Passover, it's not a dish that I'm used to having at Passover. I don't know why, but yeah, you could try quinoa if you eat quinoa. Otherwise, don't have them for Passover.
And great workshop. Thank you. Susan is the bomb. Question about whether you can use a tagine, which yes. Can you?
I don't think I would. I think the tagine, there's a couple reasons. The shape of the tagine, but also it puts so much moisture. You might end up with too much liquid. You can't control it enough. So, but on the other hand, could you try it? Yeah. And if it seemed like it was just like the liquid was filling up in there, drain some off. Does that make sense?
Looks like yes. Can you have mixed veggies cooking in the same Pyrex dish or a pan of each type of vegetable?
I mix mine up. Oh yeah, I love the flavors getting all lovely together. So this pan will end up with some peppers, some zucchini, some onions. If I do another pan, I'll put all of them in there too. Definitely. Now, there is among some Sephardim that make stuffed onions are a big delicacy. So there'll just be cans of onions that are stuffed. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm doing kind of the stuffed vegetable. Okay, I don't know if people are still watching. I'm still rolling. And by the way, this was a smaller leaf, and so it's a smaller roll. Okay, let me hold this up. You can see I tucked in right there a little one. It's okay. All right, any other questions? Because I know we're running long.
It looks like some of them are repeats. So I am going to say we will send out a link to the recording. And thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you. And thank you all. And as we say in Ladino, Sukkot Alegre, happy Sukkot. And thank you all for coming. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you'll try these and comment on the recipe even on Nasher so I can see what you all think.